It is the most wonderful time of the week. It is time for the Dirty and Driven Podcast. My name is James DeVinny. I am your host on this fine show today, where we are here to gain, train, and retain solid, hard-working people in the blue-collar trades. We want to bring people to the blue-collar world and teach them how to kick ass. I think our conversation today is doing just that, contributing to just that. We have a hell of a guest coming on here. So much value in this episode. I'm also joined by the notorious, talented, pipelining, maintenancing. That's a hard word. Coors drinking, death stare giving. Casey D.
How are you?
Here.
Glad to be back on another edition. You didn't say edition.
You got to keep it fresh. Keep it real for the people out there listening. All my homies in the street.
Yeah.
What the hell are you doing?
But that was my first form drinking. Another plug this morning. I got off the rock stars.
You got off the rock stars, huh?
Yeah.
So fueled by rock stars and Americanos, we are out here today.
Not rock stars. First forms.
Well, yeah, sorry. Fueled by Americanos and First Form Energy.
Yeah.
Casey and I are fueled and caffeinated. If you're sponsored by First Form, I'm sponsored by, I think, Black Rifle. I think that's the coffee I'm drinking today.
I'm
Black
unofficial
Rifle.
Sponsor.
Unofficially sponsored. Same.
I think you are too.
Nobody sponsored us. Actually, a word from our sponsors, me and Casey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, speak of the tip that you got the other day on Just the Tip.
Yeah, so on Just the Tip, thank you to our latest contributor, Casey Anderson, putting $10.57 in the tip jar. Thank you, Casey, for your continued support. Guys, we'll talk more on that in a sec. Don't you worry. Right. Today, we have our guest, Ryan Englin, coming on. He owns a company called Core Matters, which is getting down to the core of the issues in our industry, and really just awesome guy. Just so much great conversation, especially if you're a business owner or a leader in this industry. Ryan has really got a great system figured out for solving your hiring issues and retaining your people.
Attracting people, hiring people, and retaining people.
Yeah. Attract, hire,
and
retain. Just like we talk about gain, train, retain, it's a very similar. What we do and what our missions are go hand in hand. We really focus on training programs and stuff like that, and he really focuses on the actual application and marketing process, and then the retention part as well. And so we really try to talk about that and say what you can do to just practical stuff. Ryan has a book called Core Matters. He's on LinkedIn. He's got a podcast called Titans of the Trades. So check all that stuff out. He's a really smart guy, really awesome guy, and he's grown up in the industry. He understands the industry. He works with a lot of people in the industry, and just awesome dude overall. Also, feel free to hit us up for similar stuff. And then, if you want to do a gain, train, retain plan in your business, hit us up. Who knows? We might collaborate with both of us on some of that stuff. Guys, if you like this show, be sure to share it. Tell a friend. Share it to your stories. Refer it. Repost it on TikTok. Whatever. We would appreciate that kind of stuff. Helps us grow. If you like it, be sure to leave a 5-star review. It really helps our show grow as well. And if you really like it, you can buy merch on our website, dirtyanddriven.com, or you can also put a tip in the tip jar that Casey was talking about, just the tip, which is on the link tree and our social media bios. So that's a few places you can support us. If you listen to the whole episode, Ryan actually kind of has a gift for the listeners at the end. So be sure to listen to the whole thing to kind of hear what that gift is, especially if you like what Ryan's having to say. It's a great gift, something that I'm personally going to take advantage of. So you'll want to hear what that is. What am I missing, Casey?
That's it.
Great talk. All right, guys. Here's the show. Ready? Go. Well, we're rolling now, man. So I'm excited to talk about it after you and I had our phone call the other day. It's definitely something I've been wanting to get into because your mission is so similar to ours. I mean, in almost every way, and it's great to see other people that are in the industry trying to do the same kind of stuff that we're trying to do. I guess we need as many people as we can at it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Remind me, you're out of Nashville, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, tell us a little bit about Core Matters and what all you do and kind of what your goal is.
Yeah. Well, we've been working with contractors for the last 12, 13 years. And, I grew up in the trades. My dad was an owner operator, and he did like most owner operators. He ended up working too damn many hours, too damn many days a week. And I always thought it was he didn't know how to grow the business. But what it really was he didn't know how to build a team of people he could trust. Mm. And so after I got out of college, didn't go into the family business, did my own thing. I started marketing companies to help contractors grow their business. And a couple of years in, it was not getting the momentum that I wanted it to get. And when we dug in and we found out what was really going on, it wasn't that they couldn't handle the extra business, or it was that they couldn't handle the extra business because they didn't have enough people. So I realized real early on that recruiting is really just a marketing issue. And we could work with these contractors to help them attract, hire, and retain great talent. And it was a market that no one else was paying attention to.
I love your attract, hire, and retain because it's so similar to our gain, train, and retain. It's that's pretty cool, man. I like whenever I first saw that, I was like, let's go. But
yeah, it's definitely the industry, for whatever reason, people have turned their back on it, and it's a bummer. And it doesn't seem to be cool to be in the trades anymore. Although those of us that are working in it are like, what the hell? I wouldn't be anywhere else. This is awesome.
Yeah.
And so I think we just, like you said, we all got to work together on this. Like, this isn't something that one of us is going to solve. This is something that we got to lock arms and we all got to work together for it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those deals that a rising tide floats all boats. And that's one thing that I found, like, since I started Dirty and Driven, there's a lot of guys that have been doing it for a couple of years. And it's still, I feel like, kind of a relatively new concept to work with companies on hiring or construction companies, I should say, on hiring and training and stuff like that. I'm sure some have been doing it for a while, but there's a few guys that are established, and you would think that they'd be like, oh no, this is my turf. But almost everybody's been like, dude, thank God there's more people doing this because geez, man, we need to get more people in the trades.
Yeah, that's been one of the biggest challenges for me, is that these contractors, they don't wake up in the morning and say, hey, we need someone to help us with this whole recruiting problem. Not just, I need a superintendent, or I need another crew. Like, that's their mindset, is I just need to fill one position. Let me call a recruiter. And really what they need to be doing is saying, how do I solve this problem?
Yes.
And so there's not a lot of people out there solving the problem. They're putting Band-Aids on the problem, but they're not solving it.
Yeah, I love what you just said right there, man. That's exactly what I see all the time, because I talk to guys and they go, well, yeah, I mean, I'm going to need a project manager. We've got more jobs starting coming up, or like, yeah, Dave's getting ready to retire. We need to find somebody to replace him in the next 3 months, But nobody's sitting here going, how do we fix this long term? They're not looking, oh, Dave's going to retire in 5 years. Let's figure up somebody to start replacing him. Or, they don't look at it and say, man, our crew's 55 years old. They look at, how can I get through today or tomorrow? And I think that that's the dangerous mindset that this industry's facing right now is, we've got to get just through this job. We got to go to tomorrow. We got to get this done right now, but nobody's looking 5-10 years down the line.
I definitely see that as an industry norm, that people are very reactive in the industry. Almost everything that they do because they figure out they have to, not because they wanted to get ahead of it. Now, I can't say everyone. There are some out there that are being proactive with this, but when you realize that 40% of our workforce is going to retire by the end of the decade, we need to be solving that problem 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Already we're too late.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that, man. So you said that you grew up in construction. What kind of construction was that?
Actually, I grew up around the skilled trades. Is what I grew up in. So my dad was in manufacturing, so mechanical, electrical, plumbing. I grew up in that space and got to see a lot of different things. And of course, in manufacturing, they're always adding on to the warehouse. There's always construction stuff happening over there. But that's the trades that I grew up in. Nice.
So were you out there working with your dad at all?
Oh yeah, he put me to work as soon as I could hold a hammer. So yeah. I'll never forget one summer I went and worked for him the whole summer I was in high school. And I was like, man, I cannot work for you. I don't know what this is. And he's like, well, I have to make an example so people don't know that I'm giving my son special treatment. I'm like, you're treating me like garbage. What is this? But that's just the mindset. Anytime you're in the trades at all or blue collar work.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to love the old free child labor or cheap child labor, I should say.
Oh, no, I was free. I didn't get paid.
You were free.
Yeah. Hey, Ryan, I'm curious, which I think we need to start doing this with a lot of our guests that we get on. But what is your definition of a blue collar worker?
Oh, it's anybody that's working physical, like it's physical labor. I even expand the blue collar to say nurses are blue collar. Yeah. Anybody that's doing physical labor, they work with their body, their hands, not just their mind. Like
that's a question
on a keyboard and moving a mouse. That's not physical labor.
Yeah. That's a question I get from, I know people that they know that we do this podcast, and especially in the beginning, people were doing this, but it's a construction podcast. Whenever we talk blue collar, obviously there's other blue collar jobs, but I've had so many friends that hit me up and go, oh, well, I work a blue collar job, but it's like they're a hairstylist or they're like a nurse or they're assembly line workers. There's something along that lines. One guy worked in a bike shop. Like you could tell that they don't really listen to the show. They just wanted to be asked to be on because they were like my friend or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, that's a blue collar worker, and we need those people too. I mean, obviously, you got to have people working factories and doing stuff like that, but also, you can tell
there are levels of blue collar. Yeah, there are definitely levels of the physicalness of jobs. One of our clients does reinforcing steel, and that's blue collar work.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
that's hard.
That's hard.
Yeah, I've looked at
Mike Crow. They actually got invited to Dirty Jobs.
Oh, nice.
When Dirty Jobs relaunched a couple years ago, they were on the premiere episode. And
who was this?
Mike Crow's on camera saying, "This is the hardest job I've ever done."
Was it the
reinforced you can imagine
steel?
They ate that one up. What was that?
It the reinforced steel?
Yeah.
Huh. Have you seen that?
No, but just Micro and Dirty Jobs. That's awesome.
Yeah, reinforcing steel's hard. I haven't done much of that. Very, very minimal amount of that kind of work, but I've watched those guys, and dude, those iron workers and stuff. Those guys are crazy, man. They are crazy.
A lot of our work is in the steel industry. So
really?
That's one of the industries that I've really latched onto.
Yeah. Yeah. We had Larry Ruffton on here a while back, and he's obviously in the ironworking business. If you follow him on social media or anything, he's got a pretty big following. But just hearing about those guys, especially reinforcing steel, so cool. Just like the old school. That's like one that whenever you think like old school blue collar worker, I think of the guys that were up there on like the Empire State Building, just sitting here putting beams in and all that. And they're hundreds, well, I don't even know how tall, probably over 1,000 feet in the air with no fall protection. They're climbing it by hand like monkey bars, just physically fit. And I mean, dude, that's what I think of whenever I think of like just that old school, just badass blue collar worker. That's who I think of right there, is those old school iron workers and stuff.
You know what I think a lot of people do, and it used to be cool. You see that picture from the 30s. Like, I mean, I think of that picture where like all the guys are sitting out on the I-beam eating lunch. Mm-hmm. No fall protection. They're 1,500 feet in the air, and they're just loving life. And I've heard stories of people growing up saying, I want to do that when I'm older.
Yeah.
They don't do that anymore. We look at that now and we're like, psh, we don't need that. I'm going to go work for Facebook.
Yeah. And I mean, can you imagine how rewarding that was? And I mean, I'm sure like you look at that stuff and obviously we have a bit of a mystique about it, right? Like we go, man, just the old folklore legend. You go, man, that's so badass. But like, also I'm not going to climb the Empire State Building without a harness on anymore. But just looking at those guys and seeing how tough those guys were is just incredible. I mean, it really is sweet to think about and see that. And I mean, it, for lack of a better term, I mean, it really made the industry look sexy. I mean, you're just like, damn, this is cool. Like those guys eating lunch on that beam and all that. It just, you see that and you go, God, that's badass.
And for those of us in the industry, we can appreciate that. But I think that's one of the biggest reasons we can't bring the younger generation into the trades is because we do hold on to that. Mm-hmm. And the kids show up today and they get blisters, an hour onto the job. And we're like, everybody's a wimp here. Like back in my day, we didn't have to do it like that. Back in my day, we didn't talk back. We didn't have excuses. We didn't show up late. We just worked our asses off and we just grinded it out 18 hours a day. And it's that mindset that's keeping people from wanting to come to the industry.
Yeah.
And I see it all the time when people are working on that younger generation.
Yeah, that back in my day thing, that's a hard one. I mean, that's because you want to say like, oh, dude, you don't know how good you have it. But also it's like your struggle or your complaint's valid, I guess. I mean, most of the time, some are not. But yeah, it's hard whenever you get those old timers in there and you see a young guy and he's like trying to learn and they don't want to teach him because they're like, well, I had it so much harder. I don't want to teach you.
Yeah, but the thing is, somebody at some point in time went out of their way to teach them.
Yeah.
They forgot.
They all want to act like they figured it out on their own. And I'm sure that they probably did to an extent. I mean, because that's something that I've seen is with, a lot of the older generation is, I mean, they kind of had to learn or get left behind, because there wasn't necessarily a labor shortage back then. There was 5 other applicants. So if you didn't cut it, so it kind of forced you to try to learn. But I mean, still, you had to have somebody teach you. And I mean, you can learn how to do the basic stuff on your own, but still like real skilled technical stuff. You don't just pick that up. I mean, that takes practice and somebody with patience. And then that, for whatever reason, that doesn't want to be reciprocated to the guys out there working that are trying to learn now.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. You said that there wasn't the labor shortage back then. I found an article online from 1966 talking about the labor shortage. And they said that in order for us to get over the labor shortage back then, we were in the middle of the civil rights movement. It was let minorities into the trades. Like that was the answer back then. So, I mean, we're talking 60 years ago, they were talking labor shortage. So this isn't a new issue. We just seem to always think, oh, well, we have it way worse than they did 20 years ago. No, 20 years ago, they were dealing with a labor shortage.
Well, they might have had a labor shortage. They could have had a labor shortage too because they were sending all of our boys off to fight in Vietnam. So,
well, we can get into why there was one, but yes. But the reality is, we had labor shortage probably since the Industrial Revolution. There's been a labor shortage. The difference is 60 years ago, it took a week for that news to travel. And by the time that news did travel, it wasn't that big a deal anymore. There was something bigger, more important. Today, like if I had my phone on, I'd be getting an alert saying there's a labor shortage.
Yeah.
Because the information just travels so much faster. We're consuming stuff that really isn't that relevant. And so all this stuff gets through now. And anything we want to talk about, we get to talk about. But 60 years ago, you had to wait for it to run through the newspaper. That we had people that had to do research. It wasn't like you just hopped on Zoom and you were interviewing someone across the country. Like, it was a lot different world back then. So
what I like about that too is there's not, back then there wasn't an echo chamber. Anymore we have an echo chamber for everything. Like my feed is filled with a lot of people that go, I don't think there's a labor shortage. It needs to be better. But Joe Bob's feed, who owns a backhoe company, his feed's filled with nobody wants to work and there's a labor shortage and kids are lazy. And like somebody else's feed is filled with 9/11 conspiracy theories. It's like the For You page makes it tough. Whereas back then it was just, this is what this is what you got. You didn't have that echo chamber. And I think that we get stuck in those social media echo chambers at times. And that's what really fuels a lot of people's thinking as far as labor shortage and stuff like that.
The reality is I've been doing this for a decade. And remember, I said recruiting is a marketing issue. It's not an HR issue. It's not a construction industry issue. It's a marketing issue. We don't know how to market well in the trades. That's the problem. Yeah. And we have an entire industry that, in order to excel an individual's business, they've knocked the competition. Think about the skilled trades. This is where I see it the most, because you got a lot of service contractors there. We're the smell good plumber. Don't be a Melvin. We're on time or it's free. What they're saying is the industry is known for being stinky, for being idiots, for not showing up, for not following through. And we knock the industry thinking that that's going to help us differentiate ourselves. All we're doing is telling these parents of these kids thinking about what they want to do with their lives. No self-respecting kid of mine is going to go be a stinky plumber. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No self-respecting kid of mine is going to go work for a construction company where you don't get PTO on day one, where they don't have cry rooms set up if you have a bad day. No self-respecting kid of mine is going to go do that kind of work. And so what we're doing is we're training an entire generation to think, if you're in the trades, you're not going to be valued. You're not going to be taken care of. People aren't going to care about you. They're going to chew you up and spit you out. And when they do send you home, you're going to stink. You're going to be an idiot, and you're not going to have any values.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what it is too. And I don't know where that marketing came from exactly. I think that came around before really even my time. I think part of that was, I think the colleges got really good at marketing, and especially just the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. And they just really got good at, man, you got to have a degree if you have because it used to, a degree used to mean something. I mean, it used to be fairly relevant, and it used to really, like, people looked at it and say, golly, yeah, great. But not everybody was getting degrees. Now, I feel like a college degree has been so devalued because so many people go and then they get a useless degree. And then they come out and they don't really have any special skills because of it. They just did the bare minimum to pass, and here you go. Whereas that also instilled in people that if you don't get a college degree, then you're not going to do anything. You're not going to amount to anything. And I see people with a college degree and a dead-end shit job look at a construction worker who's making 2 to 3 times their wage and go, whew, could be a lot worse. Thank God I'm not that guy. But that guy's loving it.
But that's the thing. Like, the industry is amazing and the people are incredible. And the kind of money you can make and the lifestyle you can have and the sense of pride. I love it when I go to a new city and I hop in a car with a superintendent or a PM and they drive me around town. They're like, we built that. We built that. Like, how many other professions do you get to do that? And that thing's going to be there for 60 years. It's not like it's just, oh, we built that and tomorrow the rain's going to wash it away. Or we're going to have to update the page because we decided that, you know, we want to do something different on the website. No, this is stuff that's infrastructure, like it's there. And I think the industry has forgotten that we need to market ourselves better.
Yeah.
It's simple.
Yeah.
I tell people, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, I agree. Because I don't know where construction companies decided. I don't know. I think that they just never saw it as relevant because, you know, like I talked to some of the guys that have been doing this for 50 years and they say, oh yeah, dude, back in the day, whenever the day was for them, the 70s probably, they say, oh yeah, guys would just walk up to our job sites and say, hey, you guys hiring? You know, they would literally follow people to the job sites. Hey, you hiring? Or my boss who's 73 now and he's been working in the road construction business for over 50 years now. He was like, oh yeah, across the street, we used to have like basically same concept as a Sonic, like a drive-in. And we would always go over there in the mornings and we'd ask guys what they were doing and if they'd have a job. And if we needed people, we'd go over there and we'd pick up a few guys, 5 or 6, and we'd keep the ones that were good and get rid of the ones that weren't, and give them a couple days pay and be on their way. And, you know, marketing has never been this industry's strong suit because I don't have time. I just want to build the job and be left alone. I don't want people criticizing me on social media. We already get enough of that. I just want to build the job, be left alone, stay under the radar. I don't want to be the face, the center of attention. But that hurts us too, because then nobody knows about it.
Yeah, the world's best kept secret, right?
Yeah.
You know, and there's some other things too. Like when you went to that drive-in across the street 50 years ago, the difference in pay for being a car hop versus being someone that worked in developing roads or putting up buildings or whatever it is, or even moving dirt, the difference in pay was considerable. Now we've had this huge push for minimum wages and the construction industry just hasn't kept up. Like $15 an hour to be a laborer or $15 an hour to go work at McDonald's.
Yeah.
This generation is going to pick working at McDonald's because they see it as easier. They see it as simpler. They're not thinking like we were talking about, we're solving today's problem. So is this generation. They're not thinking in 20 years, I'm still going to be flipping burgers.
Yeah. That's a real thing. So I did an interview with Sal Frisella of First Form probably about a year ago on this podcast. And he literally said that, like, you know, look, man, whenever I hire an 18-year-old, I tell him, give me 20 years and, you know, you'll be getting, you know, you'll have your dream life. If you give me that time. And he has it laid out for him, a pipeline, a plan. But he did also say that he goes, man, in 2020, 2021, we were losing guys. Like he goes, that's the first time that we've ever had like a noticeable turnover rate. He said our typical turnover rate is like 3%. And I mean, which is peanuts. I mean, that's nothing. That's almost, I mean, that's as low as it gets. But he goes, we had like a 10% turnover rate at that point. And he goes, we learned that what was happening is they were all going to DoorDash because they can make more money. And you know, these were their entry level guys or close to it. They can make more money doing DoorDash full time. But he said we had to really start harping to our people, especially the 18 to 21 year olds, you know, hey guys, DoorDash might make you more money right now, but it's only going to take a couple of years for this to outpace it. And you're not getting retirement with DoorDash. You're not getting benefits. Like, yeah, you can make 75, 80 grand a year just driving DoorDash in these big cities, but that's it. That's all you'll ever do. And you got to do that forever. You know, you have no opportunity to go up with that.
Well, there's no life either.
Right.
I was in Detroit and my Uber driver, he used to be a software developer or something, making $100 grand a year. He's like, I can make $100 grand a year driving Uber. I'm like, really? Tell me about that. He goes, I start driving at 4 a.m. I usually wrap up around 11 o'clock at night. And I do that 6-7 days a week. He's got a 4-year-old girl at home. And I'm like, dude, you're nuts. That ain't worth it.
No.
I even mentioned to him, I said, hey, you need to look at getting in the trades. Like, you've got a degree, you've got background, you've got project management experience. You could probably fast track yourself into $100,000 in 4 or 5 years, getting in the trades, going into construction. He's like, I'd rather do this. Wow. Like we've done, not only have we ignored the marketing issue, we've done a disservice to ourselves is really what's happened.
Yeah.
And I remind people a lot of times, it's not that people don't want to be in the industry. It's that people don't want the crap that comes with the reality of being in the industry today, the being talked down to, the being, treated poorly, I'm not giving you paid time off. I don't care if you have a life. Like that mentality still exists very much in the trades right now. Mm-hmm. And people have heard about it. People know about it. And I tell people, we don't have a pay problem in this country in the industry. We don't treat people with respect problem.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go down this rabbit hole unless you want to, but it's why we can't get women into construction.
I'm down to go down some rabbit holes. What about you, Casey? You down to go down some rabbit holes?
I'm always down for rabbit holes, man.
I like to chase rabbit holes. I like it. I like it. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big proponent of women in the industry, and I work with women in my day job. I mean, we have right now. I think we've got 2 women truck drivers. We were up to 3 throughout my time. I've worked with probably 7 or 8 women, either as truck drivers or operators on an asphalt crew, and that's just where I'm at now. I mean, throughout my career, dude, I mean, whenever I was a tester, a soils and concrete tester, I'd see women on job sites. And whenever I was also doing some asphalt testing, it seemed like there was always 1 or 2 women on an asphalt crew, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, it's overwhelming minority is women. I mean, there's like 2 or 3, which you say, oh, that's great, that's awesome. But like also, 30, 40 person crew, that's not
women represent less than 4% of the workforce in the industry.
Yeah.
And it depends, and it varies very much on which part of construction you're doing. Equipment operators, truck drivers, you'll see it more there than you will the laborers, the iron workers, it's just, I had Jennifer Wilkerson on my podcast. She's with NCCER, and we talked a lot about this. And if we just take a minute to stop and think, what are the needs that a woman has on the job site that men don't? Like a different kind of outhouse. Women have different needs, and you don't think about this, right? Like you just think, well, that's silly. Well, now they're starting to put outhouses on the job site for women. A different type of harness. Women have different anatomy than men do, but we've never, even the suppliers are just now finally getting on board going, women have different needs than men do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's a different kind of outhouse that women need? That the pisser on one side and the duker right there, that
they need a trash receptacle.
Okay.
That's fair.
They need a trash receptacle. How many outhouses do you see with a trash receptacle?
Well, normally the trash is just thrown on the ground or inside the hole, right?
Okay.
On the ground.
I get it.
So actually, hey, my wife ran into this at the turnaround.
Uh-huh.
So she was working out. I mean, she was working in the field, and they have very strict porta potties that were, because what typically happens is they put men's and women's porta potties out there. And then the men's are all full, so the men use the women. They're like, "Fuck it, I don't care." I mean, I do it too, man. I'll go to like football games in Stillwater, stuff like that. And there's a female sign on the door, and I'm like, "Fuck that, dude! I gotta pee," And so like I go in there,
sit down and rock and roll.
Yeah, and so they have them labeled, but people ignore them. Well, there were some dudes that got in a lot of trouble because they started doing that. Well, the women complained, and one of them tied a feminine product to a door handle with a note saying, "Don't use our porta potty," basically. I don't remember what exactly it said. It was a very gross situation of this girl proving a point. Well, the whole place got in trouble for that because that was like, ooh, that's across the line. But
think about that, though. Think about that for a minute. I mean, that technically creates a hostile work environment.
Yeah.
For women.
No, yeah. This woman got mad.
And that's what we're doing here because I don't want to wait. I don't want to be patient. So I'm going to go do that. And then it creates this hostile work environment. Women hear about this and they're like, why the hell would I want to go deal with that?
Exactly.
But we have an old school mentality around this. We have a bunch of people that have been in this industry for way too long without women being in the industry. And frankly, they got to work on some manners.
Yeah, they do. And one thing that like I told my wife is she, you know, because she'll tell me sometimes guys make, because she works in the oil and gas industry. And so she's out there. I mean, you know, she's working in refineries and she's doing that kind of stuff. And she's around, you know, blue collar people all the time. Every now and then, you know, she'll tell me about guys that give her just a weird experience, or even if it's not that weird, it's like, oh yeah, they were just being real sweet and this and that, you know. And I was like, yeah, but like, I promise you, they're saying some pretty heinous shit behind your back too. And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, trust me. You know, we had this female inspector on a road project I was on one time. I mean, you know, everybody was real nice and cordial and sweet to her whenever she was there. But as soon as they leave, it was just, you know, objectifying sexual things. And you're like, which you can say, well, it's just men being men. But like also that's a reason that women don't want to get in, because they don't want to be put in that situation. They want to be treated normal and regular, just like any of us do. I mean, we don't want to be, you know, every time we turn around, you know, people are saying shit about us that's beyond work. I mean, you know, I get it. I mean, I really do get why that is a hurdle for women in the industry.
And they shouldn't have to worry about that. I think that's the thing.
Yes, they shouldn't. I agree.
They shouldn't have to worry about it. They shouldn't have to think, oh, I just walked out of there. I wonder what they're saying now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why we can
she worked. Oh, go ahead.
I was saying, you realize half the population in this country is women.
Yeah.
We want to solve a labor issue. Like, let's not alienate half the population.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. And I mean, really, I boil down that most of the problems in our country come down to weak men. And I think that there's a lot of men who haven't been raised right, and a lot of men who are not raising their kids right. And they don't have that respect and stuff. I mean, like I said, I work with a lot of women day to day, whether it be owners of projects or project managers or just operators and stuff like that. And like, never am I sitting there, you know, just thinking these thoughts that a lot of people say about them. You know, it's like, again, you know, my wife, I'm speaking through her experiences, but there was one day, like she gets catcalled or got catcalled a lot. She used to work in New Orleans, and that place she worked in New Orleans, she just walked through and hear 10 or 15 people catcalling her. She still gets it some, but she's not in the field as much as she used to be. But there was one day she was like, I walked to my car and she goes, I kid you not, 7 people catcalled me and were like yelling things at me and like commenting on my ass. And she's like, it's honestly just really annoying. And I was like, yeah, I can understand where that would be. And
yeah,
I think
and,
that just comes down to guys not being raised right and knowing how to treat women.
Well, I mean, that opens me up to another thing that I run into a lot is the reality is, if we don't work on getting this next generation into the trades, we're in for a world of hurt.
Yeah.
No amount of AI or robotics or anything is going to be able to replace the wrath that is going to hit this industry in the next 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
And I think that so often we forget that especially the younger generation was raised in a home, and there's a good chance they were raised without a father. Mm-hmm. There's a good chance they were raised in a home with 2 working parents who were putting in way too many hours, didn't have enough time to raise them. There's a good chance they were going to a public school that was overfilled because there's a lack of teachers, so they didn't get the attention or taught the values that they need. And then we punt them into the workforce and we say, go do this. And then we have a whole bunch of old timers saying, in my day, we didn't tolerate that stuff. You know, like you said it just a little while ago, the echo chamber of, well, no, everybody's lazy and entitled and doesn't want to work because no one ever taught them work ethic.
Right. That's what I
said.
said.
And if we want to solve this problem, that falls on us now.
Yeah. No, I actually got into with a guy I work with the other day. He goes, and he agreed with me on this statement. I mean, he's my parents' age, and he goes, you know, how come, you know, he's like, man, it just pissing me off. We get all these young guys in, they don't want to work and they don't want to do this and that and the other. And I said, they just don't know how. And he goes, what do you mean they don't know how? I said, they've never had to work. And I said, who's the generation that raised us? And he goes, oh yeah. He said, I'm as guilty as any of them. And I was like, well, I mean, we can't solve the problem until you can take that and say, yeah, shit, I didn't raise my kids to be hard workers. And now they don't want to work. All these kids don't want to work. Well, all these other parents did the same thing that I did. And we all have to fix this and address it and work with our kids, even if they're 25, 30 years old, and help them develop some work ethic.
We worked with an auto mechanic. He had like 6 locations. And he said that the day that the labor issue was solved for him was the day he realized he has to raise these kids.
Yeah.
Finish raising them. And it was stupid things. And I'm going to get a whole bunch of eye rolls for saying this kind of stuff for people listening right now. But he'd have to call them in the morning and wake them up so they'd get to the shop on time.
I believe that.
He'd have to listen to them talk about the drama they were having with girls or other parents or other things that were going on in their life. And he'd have to coach and mentor them.
Yeah.
And he goes, the day that I realized that I had to do that is the day that the labor issues went away. Because now he's investing in these kids and they are committed to him now.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing that we can do to solve the labor shortage is just show, just humanize people. I mean, just show interest in their lives, be a mentor, because so many people, and I don't even want to say kids, I mean, people of all ages, they just haven't had somebody invest in them, especially in the blue collar space. They've been through hard stuff. And I mean, I've met guys that they were kicked out of their house at 14, 15 years old. And, now they're very successful guys because they found the right people along the way, thankfully, and didn't turn to, bad stuff. But yeah, these people are hungry for mentors in their life. They're hungry for somebody to show that they care. And that's something that they've never had before. So whenever you show that and you invest in them, they'll give you their life because they go, man, you actually care about me.
No one else is doing it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, and plus at work, we spend more time at work a lot of times than we do with our family. So our work family, hopefully they're there for us. And then you and I've spoke about quite a bit on the mental illness, whether it's a small bit or a big bit. But if you have someone at work to lean on, to kind of hear you out, supervisor, coworker, whoever it is, subordinate, just somebody to hopefully get something, off your back, man, and be there for you, then good things will come about. And then now you know that you have a family, you have your work family, then hopefully, a family at home that is there for you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what you hope for. But golly, dude, there's a lot of guys that they don't have a supportive family at home, and girls, I should say. But yeah, there's a lot of people that don't have supportive families at home. They're either single or it's a hostile situation, or they're divorced and, splitting time with their kids and just trying to make it work, or, a lot of people have drama, man. And sometimes, like, I see it with guys all the time that they like coming to work. They love coming to work because they don't know how to, they don't like being home because it's a hostile environment, which is unfortunate. And I believe that there's a lot of personal accountability that they could change on their part, but that's besides the point right now. I mean, it's just, they need somebody supportive somewhere, because it sucks whenever things are not going your way at home. And I mean, we've all dealt with it where you go home and it's tough, and you're dealing with something, you're wrestling with something, because even if you have a great relationship with your wife or your kids or whatever, you still have times where, you're in the doghouse, or, you messed up, or, they made you mad or something where it's not, you're just not mentally all there at home. And then you come to work and your boss is just yelling at you and abusing you and all that. And it's just kicking you down more and more. And then now you're in a worse mood because you had a bad day at work, and then you go back home, and it's just a vicious repeating cycle that doesn't end. So sometimes as a leader in the industry, or even just as a guy that's a coworker, stepping up and taking interest and investing and being kind to whoever, I feel like a kindergarten teacher, be kind to whoever you're talking to or you're working with, that might be all they need to keep them in line and to keep them feeling good.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's a vicious cycle, right? I'm not winning at home. I feel like I'm losing every time I'm at home. So I come to work where I can be productive and I can go home at the end of the day and say, today I won. And I use that as that escape. But then when someone else comes up onto the job site and they're bringing that I'm losing at home to work because they don't feel like they're winning here now and they want to pour into me, my natural instinct is to say, I don't want to deal with that. Like, I just got away from that myself. I'm here to win. And now you're bringing drama to me.
Yeah. Sometimes there's those dark clouds that just bring everybody down.
Yeah. And you always have those miserable people, but I think that's like, we're bringing the house down a little bit. So let's raise it back up a little and talk a little, culture building, yeah, I mean, that's where it's important that either whenever you have those dark clouds or those people that are really bringing your crew down all day in, day out, just that are part of that cycle, you've got to deal with those people, whether that be maybe you got to fire them. I mean, that's last case scenario, hopefully. But I mean, you got to have a serious conversation with them and say, hey, you are bringing this crew down. You are bringing everybody around you down. And you've either got to change your attitude and here's some things that you can work on from my perspective. What do you think that you can work on from your perspective? And let's make a plan here to improve a little bit. Don't just slap them with the whole, we're going to put you on a PIP. But slap them with hey man, you've got to get it together. Otherwise we can't keep you around. Even if you're a good worker, you're running people off because nobody wants to be around you. That's all part of building that culture, of a good crew or workforce.
Well, now you're talking about teaching our leaders in the field how to be mentors, how to be better leaders, how to coach, how to encourage. And that's a challenge because, like I said earlier, people have turned their back on this industry and there's not a lot of people out there doing that type of work, which is one of the reasons I'm so excited over here, what we're doing, because we actually encourage the industry leaders to start thinking bigger picture. How do we get the leader training? How do we teach them how to coach and to mentor? How do we give them those skills so that when those guys do show up, we're there to support them? Because it's not as simple as saying, oh, your performance sucks, go. Yeah. No, their performance sucks because they're dealing with crap at home.
Yeah.
And if every single time someone's dealing with crap at home in this industry, we're going to run out of people real fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just the reality of it.
Yeah. Well, and that's what happens, man. People deal with crap at home. And then again, it's that cycle that I just talked about. They deal with crap at home. So they come home. They feel like shit. They don't sleep worth a crap because they've got all the stuff on their mind. And then they wake up late and they show up late. And then now their boss is writing them up because they've shown up late. And it just, now that they feel like crap, the crappy employee, and then their whole day is ruined. And then it just repeats and repeats. So yeah, it's important to have that.
And it comes to looking out for each other too. I mean, if you look at the safety issues that we have when we have an incident, usually it's because someone's mind is somewhere else.
Yeah.
They're dealing with stuff at home. They're thinking about the home stuff and they're just not paying attention. Mm-hmm. And we need to start looking out for each other more. I know we say we do it, but we just need to say, hey, you know what? We're all in this boat together. And if I keep kicking people off, I'm going to end up just rowing around in circles and I'm never going to be able to move forward, which is what we want. We talked a little bit about family. You mentioned family. And when we do culture work, because that's one thing that's missing for a lot of contractors is the culture and defining it well and communicating it well. We do not let them say family is one of their core values. We will not let them say it. We see it all the time. Oh, we're a family. You know what? More than half the people in this country come from a broken family. And if you looked at the blue collar stuff, it's probably even higher. The last thing we want to do is make them think that we're anything like their real family.
Yeah. That's a great way to put that, man. Holy crap. I love that, dude. because every company says, "Oh yeah, we're a family. Welcome to." My least favorite is whenever you get a guy that's like, "Welcome to our corporate family," and it just, to me, that already sounds like, "Welcome to the shit show, motherfucker."
Yeah, so it's just as dysfunctional as the family I grew up in, except this one you can kick me out of. That's all you're saying.
That's funny, dude. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that you guys have that. Like, yeah, you can't call it a family, dude. I mean, geez. So how do you take somebody, and we talked about this some, but I want to hear it from how you guys do it too. How do you take a contractor and get them to realize they need to invest in and develop this culture?
Well, the invest in and develop, it's education. Like, we have to educate people beforehand. There's a lot of data out there. In millennials, for example, which, by the way, millennials are adults now. They're in their 40s. They're not the kids we used to think they were. But there's a lot of data around the millennials, and we're starting to get it around Gen Z, that says millennials will take a pay cut to go work for a company whose mission and values align with their own.
Yeah.
They're going where this person wants to go. The company's going where this employee wants to go. They behave the way that this employee likes to behave or likes to be around people who behave. They will take a pay cut for that. And when people buy into that, when execs buy into that, and they say, you know what, you're right. We need to get really clear on what our mission is. We need to get really clear on how we behave. We need to get really clear on where we're going as a company so we can get people on our bus and they want to go with us. Mm-hmm. But we don't do that in the industry right now. We say we do, and we slap it up on the wall in the trailer on the job site, and we say, that's our values. And every single person on that job site looks at them and goes, yeah, that's bullshit. We don't live like that.
Yeah. I've seen that with companies that I work with. Sometimes they've got the values on their deal, and I'm like, just from an outside perspective, I go, dude, that is the most corporate bullshit, especially whenever their values are like safety, integrity, quality. And you're like, yeah, you and everybody else, dude.
If you have to tell me that you're going to be honest with me, what does that say about you? Are you normally not honest, but this time you're going to make an exception? Like, come on.
Yeah. So how do you get these clients and stuff like that to say, I mean, because obviously you say education, stuff like that, but most construction companies, whenever you start talking, hey man, you should really consider investing in your culture and investing in your employees in this way. I hear so many excuses, and very few actually want to do it. They say, I don't need that. We are, dude, my crew is a family. We are this, that, the other. We have a great culture as it is, but they don't want to define it. They don't want to write it down. They don't want to come up with their good core values. They don't want to come up with a mission statement. They don't want to figure out how to rally their people. They just want to keep saying, nah, we're good, man. So how do you do that? How do you make that argument? And how do you convince contractors that it's necessary?
Well, you might have a good culture, and you might have a crew that works great together. They're firing all cylinders. They communicate well and everything else. But if you don't know how to package that up and promote it outside the company, you're never going to build another crew like that. Mm-hmm. And if you haven't defined it and you don't know exactly what that means to say they're a great crew and they communicate well and they got a great culture, if you don't know how to describe that, how are you ever going to repeat it? Mm-hmm. You're never going to be able to duplicate it if you don't write it down in a way that people understand it and that you're excited about it.
That's a good way to put that. Yeah, because you do see a lot of crews that, I mean, and I know people like that too, that you look at their crew and it's special. I mean, might be a 6 to 10 person crew, owner operator, and it's a very special, unique set of people. But they don't have anything, written down to find anything like that. And that works for them right now. But if they want to grow and scale and, like you said, duplicate it and find more people like the guys they already have, then that is an important thing to
What happens when you piss off that foreman or that crew lead? Yeah. You don't just lose that person. You lose that whole crew.
Yeah.
If they're that tight-knit, we see it all the time. A foreman will leave and they'll be, within 6 months, everybody else is left. Yeah. You followed that foreman. Or how often have you seen you got a crew that's maybe 6 to 10, and you're like, yeah, that crew's a little big right now. We need to take 2 of your top people, and we need to go over here because that crew's struggling a little bit. And we put them on a different crew, and their performance sucks. People step up to their level of performance based on the leadership, based on the culture, based on the way they feel on that crew. You take a top performer on one crew, move them to a crew that does not function very well, and watch their performance drop.
Yeah.
Because you haven't defined how to duplicate what's happening on that one crew.
Yeah, that's true. Because you do see some crews that have a great culture and feel, and some crews that don't. And it's the same company, same logo, but it's totally different feel. And I've seen that too. What you're saying, just hiring subcontractors. I mean, you use this guy for 3-5 years. Well, then it's exactly that. Their project manager, their superintendent, or whoever, he leaves and takes a whole crew with them of 15 guys. And then now they're working for this other company. So now you're hiring them as your subcontractor because you know them and you have a relationship with them and you know their whole crew and you know their quality of work. And then you sometimes use the guy that the company they left, and the work went to shit just for that company that you've used forever. So now you're always using this new company, but you're not really using the company. You're using the guy. Well,
that's an interesting distinction. And that's something that we talk about too. So we don't talk a lot about culture at Core Matters. We talk about your core, which is the things that are fundamental, foundational, non-negotiable when it comes to being a part of the team. And we break it down into 3 things. We break it down into why you do what you do. Why do you pave roads? There are so many other things you could have done in construction, but you pave roads for a reason. Mm-hmm. Why do you do site development? Why do you do, steel erection? Why do you do oil and gas? There's a reason behind it. You need to align to that why. Everybody needs to be excited about it for the same reason. How we behave, we call those core values. Their behaviors. See, the thing about most companies' core values is they're not verbs. Integrity, trust, teamwork, honesty. Okay, great. We're describing something, but we don't know what we're describing. How do I know when someone is being honest? I want to see it in action. It's how they behave. And then the third one is vision. Like, where are we going? You've heard about the metaphorical bus. Get the right people in the right seats on the bus. Your company will go anywhere. Yeah, but if people aren't excited about where it's going, how many businesses have you heard of that just drive around in circles, or they're just perpetually stuck in traffic and not growing? Nobody wants to get on that bus. Yeah. So let's talk about where we're going, and let's be able to promote and sell that. And when you have those 3 things figured out and you know how to communicate it through story, that's going to affect the contractors you work with. It's going to affect the suppliers that you do business with. It's going to affect the clients you take on. And you are going to be so much better off, and your people are going to be so much happier and so much more fulfilled when all of those things align.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The old first who, then where kind of concept, right? You do want the right people on it, but then you got to say, where are we going and how do we get there? And that's important. Comes down to your core through and through. I love that, man. That's a question that I ask people too, is, because people say, why do we need to rally people up? Why do we need to invest in these people like this? Why do we need to do all this different stuff, right? They always want to ask you that. And you're like, well, you got to have everybody on board to accomplish what you're trying to do. And if your goal is to, have a company that doesn't have a workforce shortage and does quality work, your people need to know how, and they need to know that bigger picture and that broader picture, not just be a company where they show up, they clock in, they get a paycheck, they clock out, and they forget that you even exist. And
think about it.
Where a lot of people are at.
If you have half your team wanting to go right and half your team wanting to go left, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
We aren't going anywhere. Or half your team wants to turn around and the other half of the team wants to keep going straight. You're in trouble. You ain't going to get anywhere. Maybe you'll make a little bit of progress, but you're going to put so much more energy into making that progress that it's not going to be worth it. mean, margins are already small enough in these industries. Mm-hmm. We don't need to make it harder on ourselves. But for whatever reason, by choosing not to do the stuff that sometimes come across as warm and fuzzy and fluffy and, all this values stuff, I've had people tell me all the time, we don't do the emotional stuff here. We're construction guys. We don't do emotional stuff. And I'll ask them, I go, when's the last time a superintendent got cursed out on a job site? Oh, we measure that in minutes around here. Yeah, that's called emotion. It's not the kind we want to bottle up. But don't tell me that just because you're construction workers, you guys don't do the emotional stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing with humans, right? Is you're always going to have emotions. I mean, emotions run hot on a job site, dude, especially whenever you got tight timelines or tight budgets, or you got a guy that's managing not only a crew under him, but subcontractors as well. Man, that's a stressful deal. And then you got a guy that's having a bad day. Well, you've had a bad day with your subcontractors, and now you've got to go and also try and talk to your laborer who's showed up late and is just doing a shitty job today. Man, emotions run hot. You got to know how to handle those emotions, and you got to know how to handle the people around you.
Absolutely.
And that's one difference, I think, with between blue collar and a white collar job is a blue collar job. You're out there a lot of times in the heat or in the elements, laboring, the heart rate's up, things aren't going the way that they should, compared to if you're in an office environment, nice, conditioned, air conditioned, you could probably handle things a little different and not have to go with your elevated, heated responses dealing with certain situations.
Well, it's kind of like driving down the road. So whenever you drive down the road, you're like, do you ever get road rage? Ryan, you ever get road rage?
I plead the fifth.
Yeah, right. I mean, everybody gets a little bit of road rage at times.
I'm sure on a scale. I'm sure, wherever the scale is, I probably do. Yeah.
Well, I mean, somebody you're driving, so you're already like alert, right? You're already looking around. You're already because you got to drive defensively, So you're doing that. Well, then somebody swerves up past you and they cut you off or something. Hey, motherfucker, what are you? What the hell's this guy doing, right? But if you're walking down the road, then somebody steps in front of you, you're like, oh, excuse me. So it's kind of the same thing, right? Because you're already so tense, looking around, afraid something could happen while you're driving, trying to avoid it. Whenever you're walking, it's a little slower moving. The job site's the same way, dude. I mean, if you're walking, somebody cuts you off, you just stop and you start walking again. It's no extra effort, no extra time. If you're on a job site, for example, it's hot, so you have the elements, or cold, or any sort of weird elements, windy. You've got material there that you've got to set up. Let's say you've got concrete or asphalt on the job, ready to go. You have a very limited time window to get this down and to get it placed. Otherwise, it's going to set up, and then you're going to have to tear it out and redo it because you didn't finish it in time. So you're getting mad. You're, hey, I need that tool. Hey, I need that. Oh man, it's hot. This concrete's setting up fast. You're pointing and you're scrambling. You're trying to do stuff because now something broke or something went wrong, and you're just trying to get it done. You got trucks on site. You're paying them by the hour. You've got to hurry the hell up. Now in an office, something happens and it's high stress and all that. You can say, hey, you know what? Let's take 5. Let's grab some water. Let's go to the bathroom. Let's come back in here. Look at this again. Fresh mind. It might be a very stressful situation. I mean, in an office, it can be very stressful. You're bidding a job and you know that you've got 4 other people bidding on it and it's a tight margins and you're trying to make it work, but you need the work because you've got 30 guys and after they're done on the job they're on, they have nothing to do. I mean, that's stressful too. It's different, but in an office, you're not looking at somebody going, what the fuck, you piece of shit? I
just had this vision while you were describing that of somebody saying, hey, you know what? Jimmy's having a rough time. Let's shut down the job site. Everybody take 15 minutes. We'll come back. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Hey, concrete, stop setting up on us, concrete. We're going to take 15. Just hold on.
Yeah. Hey, asphalt, stay hot for a few minutes, will you?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Ben's up there about, 60 feet and his harness isn't right. But you know what? He's having a rough day. So why don't we just let him sit there for a little while instead of getting up there and making sure that he's safe? Oh my gosh. Yeah. And that's the thing. That's why I don't like working in the white collar space as much, because it's politics. And it's just like, you know what? If you think it, say it. That's my motto. If you think it, say it.
Yeah.
If someone's being unsafe, you're not like, oh man, you're having a rough day. Hey, maybe we can talk through this. It's like, no, get your crap together. Like, you're being unsafe. You're putting people's lives on the line. And that's the thing. No one dies working for Facebook.
Yeah. And I'm not a fan of people tiptoeing around their emotions or tiptoeing around how people's going to feel when you present something. I mean, I'd rather someone wear their emotions and stuff on their sleeve and call things for what it is. If you're screwing up or jacking up, if I'm legitly doing something wrong, dude, call me out. Yeah. I'm a big boy. Yeah. I'm an adult. I can take it. If I'm screwing up, you call me out. I'll face it.
We don't get anywhere unless we have those uncomfortable conversations. And that's why I like working in a construction office, because there is less politics than, say, Facebook or some of the, a law firm or something like that. I mean, we say what we need to say. And like in the office I work in, I got a good team, and, we're construction people, right? And we get out in the field and that's how we deal. And we say it how it needs to be said. And it's like that with customers. I mean, a customer would rather you tell them how it is than tiptoe around until the end of the job. And then turns out you've screwed them over because you couldn't just be honest with them from the beginning, or tell them what needs to be said from the beginning. You have to do that. And it's like that with any relationship, whether it be a friendship or whether it be employee-employer or whether it be, anything else. I mean, like, if you have a marriage and you guys don't tell each other, hey, this is pissing me off, or, hey, this is bothering me, that can be a very uncomfortable conversation. And if you don't have those, then it never gets any better. And you just build resentment towards each other.
Yeah. We do all of our work virtually, and saves us a lot of time, saves the client a lot of time. And we have heated conversations over Zoom, just like being right there on the job site together. I mean, we've had clients who have stormed off of a meeting because they don't like what we had to say because we didn't want to sugarcoat it. We've had people crying on calls because they had no idea. And I'm like, do you want to fix this fast? Or do you want to fix it nice and slow and we'll get to it in 6 months when you're ready to handle it? And, I'm the rip the Band-Aid off kind of guy. Like, let's just get it out there and then we'll solve it later. But the more time that we spend on worrying about everybody's feelings, and I'm not saying disregard feelings, like emotions are real, but if we have a problem because someone's not being safe on the job site and they're putting someone else's lives on the line, we don't need to sugarcoat that stuff.
Right. And
that one I think people get. But when someone's having a rough day and it's impacting the performance of the crew, we don't need to sugarcoat that either.
Right.
But we shouldn't alienate them and make them feel like garbage because they're dealing with stuff.
Yeah, you can't just rip their ass and say, dude, what the fuck are you doing? I mean, you got to take the approach of, dude, you're off. What's up?
And send them home for the day if they're not getting it. Yeah.
Well, and I think a problem too with a lot of smaller businesses, when you have situations like that, it's like you can't just go, hey, let me go to the HR person. All right, hold on a second. All right, I'm the HR guy. What do you got?
Hold on. Yeah. Let me go to the HR person.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, the HR guy is the owner operator.
He just puts a different hat on.
You have zero HR to go discuss things with. You got to handle it right there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you got to have those. I mean, and like I said, those are uncomfortable, but I think that's why you see so many marriages fail. That's why you see so many businesses fail. That's why you see a lot of people fail, because they get to that point of uncomfortability. And like what you're saying, Ryan, they get pissed off and they storm off because you're mirroring back to them what their biggest insecurities, really. I mean, they're sitting here saying, oh no, they're trying to tell themselves it's fine. But then you hit them with, look, man, you've got to step it up here, here, and here. And now all of a sudden they have to realize I have a problem. And they feel like king shit, but now all of a sudden it's, wait, you mean I'm the problem? And that's a hard thing for people to realize. And I mean, and I'm guilty of that, dude. I mean, I'm guilty of being the guy at times that people rip the Band-Aid and say, hey man, you are not cutting it in these areas and you've got to step it up. And that is hard to be told that. And it's hard to take it. And you want to say, no, that's not true. That's not right. But then, you start analyzing it and you go, yeah. And after you process it, you're like, all right, yeah. And it might take a couple days to process and learn, but then you say, okay, I can move forward now because I realized that these people who depend on me see me weak in certain areas, and I've got to change that.
So one of the things that's really good about the process that we develop is that when a new person comes on the team, and most of the work we do is bringing new people into the team, how do you assimilate them into your culture? How do you make them feel like they belong and so they want to stick around? And when we walk someone through that path and we walk them through that journey and we connect with them at that personal level and we understand them and they understand us and we know how to communicate, we know how to function, over time, it transforms the entire organization because now everybody starts operating under that set of processes and systems that we build. And being able to have open, honest conversations with people, it's an art form. It's not like you can just flip the switch and be like, hey, we're going to have open and honest and it's not going to hurt people's feelings. But there are ways to do it and to build trust and to establish that relationship so that you can have those conversations. Yeah. And it's not going to shut down a whole crew and it's not going to cause people to walk off the job or not come back the next day. Ghosting's a real thing in this industry. Like how many times do people just go home at the end of the day or leave for lunch and never come back?
I know so many guys that have done that. I used to work with a guy, whenever I was landscaping. Great dude, great worker. But man, as soon as he got pissed off about something, he'd literally, he's probably done it 3 or 4 different jobs, just that I know about. No telling how many others. But he would tell me stories about, oh yeah, man, they said this, and that to me, and that was kind of the last straw, and it pissed me off. So I took a lunch and I never showed back up. I was like, what the fuck, dude? Why would you do that?
And you know what the sad part is? I'll bet you there are companies he's done that to that are just so damn desperate that if he does come back, they just hire him again.
Oh, yeah.
And he'll do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a previous guy I used to do construction with. I've talked about him quite a bit. Badass framer, man, framing houses. I mean, he could cut in any type of custom roof, hips, valleys, dormers, the whole nine. But once he got that big fat paycheck, you wouldn't see him for a week or two until the money ran out. The next thing you know, he'd show up that Monday morning like, hey, no big deal, like no harm, no foul. And he'd work again until he got that money. Then he'd just ghost us for another week or two.
I worked with a kid like that too. He'd call in quite a bit and we'd go, man, why do you call in so much? Just whenever I was a laborer. I was like, man, why do you call in so much? Like, that's really kind of annoying. We're out here busting ass and, you're taking a day off every week or every 2 weeks. And he's, well, when I need the money, I like to work overtime. When I don't need the money, I don't want to. And, we'd always be like, oh, well, bum me that nice truck right there in the dealership lot. I ain't got that much money. It's like, same deal. They get just enough to survive and then they squander it and blow it at the casino and they'll be back.
Yeah.
But those people never last either.
Well, and who knows? I mean, we're not them in their reality. Maybe they're content with being there, but in my reality, it's something different.
Yeah, that's true, man. That's true. Golly, that's crazy. But one thing that I did want to hit on too is you said we've got to create opportunities for these conversations, and we've got to make people comfortable. Sometimes you got to give people permission to have these conversations, and I want to speak to both the employee and the employer here. So it seems like a lot of employers are going to an employee evaluation system in some way, shape, or form, at least larger ones. Your smaller guys, they're probably not doing a formal deal, but a lot of employers want to do an employee evaluation, right? And they want to take it and they want their boss or they want the main guy to go over this evaluation with every single employee. And they want to tell the employee where they're wrong and where they can improve and where they're doing well and just tell them all this stuff. But they rarely, I mean, some of them do, but they don't want to hear the employee's evaluation of them. And where's the trust there? You come in, you say, hey, you need to improve in these areas. But you never say, by the way, where can we improve to help you in these areas? And good companies are doing this, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of companies that want to tell people where they're wrong, but they're so arrogant that they don't want to hear where they could be doing better.
Well, I think it's one thing to say, hey, where can I improve? And take down the notes. It's one thing to do that. It's an entirely separate thing to take that and work on improving.
Yeah.
I would say companies are asking for the feedback. Exceptional companies are actually doing something with the feedback.
Yeah.
And that's part of our process. We have a tool called the Core Fit Conversation, which happens pretty regularly through onboarding and then happens about every 90 days. And it's an evaluation of the supervisor from the employee, which nobody does. They all want to go in and say, hey, we're going to do this evaluation of the employee, and we're going to tell them all the things that they've done wrong for the last year, that most of the time they're going to be blindsided because we didn't do our job as leaders and tell them when they were having the problem. I mean, how often have you gotten into an evaluation and you're like, well, that's information that would have been great 9 months ago.
Yeah.
I would have hit my numbers. I would have been a better performer. I would have been happier at work. But we wait until the evaluation. And so my philosophy is, if there is something brought up to the employee that the employee is surprised by, you as the leader are at fault.
Yeah.
For not telling them sooner. There should be nothing in an evaluation of an employee that surprises them. Nothing. Because you should be giving them feedback in real time, coaching them, mentoring them, helping them become a better employee, better team member. On the other side, the Core Fit Conversation is all about me as the supervisor, as their leader. And what I want to do is I want to have a 60-minute conversation about what I can do to better support them, what I can do to better communicate, what I can do to grow a better team. Because who better to tell me than the person on the receiving end of my leadership? The problem is most employees have never been asked this stuff before. So you get to the first one and they're like, oh, I don't know, everything's good. Because they don't trust you. Yeah. They're afraid if they open their mouth and give you feedback, the wrath of God's going to come down on them and they may not work there anymore. Mm-hmm. So it can take years to shift this culture, this mindset of, I can't trust the guy that I work with. I mean, what does that say about me as a leader if my people can't be open and honest with me?
Yeah.
What does that say about my leadership, my communication, my style? It says a lot. And we've got to start working on getting them to better trust us through regular conversation, through asking for feedback, and more importantly than asking for it, doing something with it. Because how often does that supervisor walk out of that meeting and go, you don't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know the reality of my job. I can't do what he's asking. If I do that for him, what's that going to mean for everybody else?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the norm, right? You know, they don't want to. Again, you're asking people to put themselves in an uncomfortable situation and swallow their pride and say, maybe I am the problem, or maybe I do have a problem. And people don't want to do that. You know, they just, nah, man, it's good.
You've heard it said, people don't leave jobs, they leave bosses.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've mentioned this on previous ones before. I've had like, our safety coordinators or specialists, and I've had guys that these guys were such great leaders that they'd ask for ideas and stuff, and you'd raise your hand or you'd pitch something, and they'd be like, "Man, Casey, that's a great idea, man. Shoot me an email, dude, if you want. I got a couple resources, and we'll go back and forth, man. Let's run with that." And you felt like your opinion was valued, and you would literally go to war for this person because they valued you. They didn't look at you as a peon, right? Well, they would promote out. Then a different leader or a different safety guy would take their place. And this is the same with bosses too, not just safety guys. Different guy would take their place. You'd come up with an idea. They'd be like, no, we've looked into that. It just ain't going to happen. And they'd shoot you down 2 or 3 times where you'd finally just have your head down and you stop coming up with good ideas because the leader whether this new leader that came in, whether he actually valued my opinion and ran with it, if he did embrace what I said, whether he ran with that, at least it'd give me some hope. But whenever they just shoot down, no, we've already discussed that. It ain't going to happen. You finally just stop. You finally just have your head down. You stop coming up with ideas. You stop wanting to be vocal with anything.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's all about leadership.
Man, one time I had a CEO tell me, he was talking about his other CEO friend of a big company. And he goes, oh, yeah, they just did their yearly employee evaluations. And here's some of the glowing things that their employees were saying. It's just so awesome to blah, blah. And I'm like, why don't you do that with your company? Well, what do you mean? Well, why don't you have your employees fill out an anonymous survey about where you guys can improve and stuff like that? Oh, I mean, we just don't have the need. We're not their size. But I'm like, you have several hundred employees. Like, you're a big company spread out all over the place. Why don't you do that? Oh, it's just different, but it's just they start making excuses. And it's like, dude, you just talked about how awesome your friends' evaluations were and how much it's helped their business. And now you're sitting here telling me that you don't want to do it.
Well, I'm not the problem, right? I'm not the problem in the industry. It's everybody else that's the problem. That's why we come up with these taglines to knock everybody else, because I'm not the problem.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you were talking about was this surveying, and you ask people and you ask them for feedback, and there's this net promoter score. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that.
I don't believe so.
You've seen it before. You've gotten an email that says, on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely are you to refer us?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's called net promoter score. There's a ton of science behind it, and how accurate it is telling, are you doing a good job or not? Over large groups of surveys, not just one or two, that doesn't help. But when you have hundreds of people giving you net promoter score, it can tell you a lot about your organization. Well, a good net promoter score is 30. It goes on a scale from negative 100 to positive 100. A good score is 30. World-class organizations will hit 50. Anything above 50, and it's pretty much, is that real? Did you get a big enough sample? Well, we had a client that they surveyed their entire team, and it's like a couple hundred people, and they surveyed them with this net promoter score. And their target was to get 60% of the people to respond. 60% of the people came back glowing recommendations. I mean, their net promoter score was like 73. So high that I'm like, yeah, I don't know. What about the 40% that didn't respond? What did they have to say? They're the ones probably saying, I don't like working here. I don't like the employee experience. But what we find is that when you survey somebody once, or you ask them for their opinion once, they're going to be super cautious to say anything's wrong, because they don't want you to fire them. They don't want you to treat them different. They don't trust what you're going to do with the information. Everybody knows there's no such thing as anonymous anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, we've got a third party that, no, if you say something bad, they can dig into who was the asshole that said that, man.
Well, and sometimes I filled out anonymous surveys. There's an organization I'm part of, and we do anonymous surveys every time we meet. And I mean, normally I have good things to say, but there's been a few times I've made sly comments on there, and though you don't put your name or anything on it, but they always email me and say, oh, hey, by the way, we fixed blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I mean, my handwriting's so bad that they know it's mine, but
that's the thing. People know there's no such thing as anonymous. And so they're very cautious what they're going to say. So these guys are sitting around going, we're awesome. We don't need to survey again. And I'm like, well, what about the people that didn't respond? How are they feeling? And can you really be so, blind to the fact that people don't trust when they get surveyed once a year? People need to survey more often. People need to know that you actually going to do something with this. And that's the thing. Why am I going to put energy into telling you how to be a better employer if I know you're not going to do anything with it anyways? Right. It was just what you said. You're like, why even bother?
One thing that where I'm at that we struggle with is you have the field employees, then you have
upper echelon,
the upper
echelon, ivory tower,
in the higher rises, in the big corporate offices, and we're the ones that physically see what in the hell's going on, but there's to me, it seems like there's such a disconnect with getting things done to where even the field employees will have their heads down because they know that more than likely nothing's going to happen with their ideas because all the decisions are made up in corporate and they're just going to shoot down these good ideas.
Yeah.
Because, bottom dollar, just looking at, a spreadsheet compared to actual things in the field.
Yeah. What sucks
Ivory
too is
tower
whenever
syndrome.
you have,
Yeah, dude.
What was that term you used?
Ivory tower syndrome.
Yeah.
The view looks really good from the ivory tower, doesn't it?
Yeah, dude, I'm dealing with that right now. We're doing a federal job for a federal agency. I won't put anyone on blast, but dude, it's a real syndrome, because you do something for like these federal ones. Your local guys, amazing, incredible people, awesome. But then you go a step above them, and it's in like, a different town still in your state. And then those people are, and then they kind of make you do some more just stupid shit, add on to it, make your life hard. And then they send it to like Washington, D.C. And then those people in D.C., and then it just up and down the flagpole, it touches 50 people's hands. And then you can't do what you want because even though you're the contractor and you know best, their engineers in, Washington say, no, that's not a good idea. And you're like, well, you're not even here.
You don't even know.
You haven't even seen it.
Yeah. I joke about it. I was working on my car and I had to go down and rent a tool because it's like a $200 tool. I was like, I'm just going to rent this thing. I had to rent this tool because there was a nut that no tool that you can buy at any normal store can get to. It was designed specifically for this application by some engineer who said, hey, I don't work on these damn things. What do I care? Like, let's just build it. When we're building it, it's real easy to get that nut on there. But then when you got to work on it, you got to buy this fancy tool just to get there that you're only going to need once ever. And it's just, there's such a disconnect from the office. And this is every organization, even the ones that say they do it well, there's still an us and a them mentality.
Yeah.
I got one we were working with, and they do a monthly breakfast, and anybody can come to the breakfast. It was at the office. Well, one time they decided to do it in the field. The office was pissed.
What?
I'm like, these people are coming to you all the time. They're like, yeah, why should we have to go out there?
Huh.
I'm like, this blows my mind. Like, you're in the wrong industry. If you don't understand that your business, you're in construction. If you don't understand that your business is built on the backs of those people out there on the front lines making it happen, you were in the wrong business.
Yeah.
Go do something else. Because without them, you're nothing. There's not a single construction company on the planet that it's only the office.
Right.
It's all about the office.
That's crazy to me too, because usually whenever you suggest a lot of office people to, hey, you want to get out in the field? It's like, yeah, I've never been out in the field. And it's like, what do you mean you've never been out in the field? You've worked here 10 years. Yeah. Just never.
You're not allowed to wear shorts and high heels, by the way. Like, let's be real clear what you're walking into.
I love taking people out to the field that have never been or very rarely get to go, because every time they have an epiphany, it's like, oh, that's what that is. I bill that all the time, or I pay bills for that all the time, or I hear that term a lot or see it flash up in my emails, and oh, that's what that means. That's what it just, you start seeing things clicking, and a lot of people don't, they say that they don't have time, but it just,
well, I think as part of onboarding, that's a mental shift we need to make. As part of onboarding new people, let the office people go out into the field. Have a whole week where they just spend an entire week. Like, say, hey, you're going to go get some boots. You're going to get some safety gear. You're just going to spend a whole week out in the field. And we're going to let you do some stuff. Don't worry, we're not going to hurt you, but we're going to let you do some stuff just so you get a sense for it and you have an appreciation for what those people do. But I think the opposite needs to happen too.
Yeah.
Take that craft worker and say, hey, you're going to go sit in an office for a day.
Yeah.
And then they're going to say, this sucks. Yeah. So the next time you want to pencil whip your damn form, like, look at what we have to deal with.
Yeah.
Like, how often are we dealing with that? People just complaining, oh, I got another form to fill out. Got another thing I have to submit. Yeah, but there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
So let those people go back into the office and see what happens when they don't do their job.
Yeah. Giving them the perspective of this is why you have to do it, because so often people look at it and they go, this is just stupid, man. We're getting so corporate. We got to, but whenever you can say, hey, here's what we do with this paperwork and here's what we do with these reports. And it's very,
here's what happened when you don't do it right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or don't do it at all.
And showing them the numbers too. I mean, I think it's so important to sit down with with everybody, foremen, supers, all that, and say, hey, here's the numbers. Here's what happens. Like, for example, we were training a new asphalt foreman, and he'd been a number 2 guy for a long time. And so he was the one accustomed to doing the work. Well, you'd have another guy out calling shots, the asphalt foreman that he replaced before he retired. He was the one calling shots. He'd go around, he'd be, doing stuff. And then his number 2 guy's actually the one getting a lot of the work done while he's delegating. Well, now he's moved up to the foreman position. Well, he doesn't know how to delegate work. And he doesn't understand that he's doing all this work. Well, now there's guys standing around because they're not really sure the direction to go in. And whenever you've got people waiting, like, okay, we're waiting on you to clean this up, whenever you should be delegating, getting other things going, have somebody else clean this up or get this ready. Well, he did not understand that whenever everybody's waiting on you to make a decision or you to finish a task, then you've got a 20-man crew just sitting there waiting. Maybe they're doing some stuff, but for the most part, they're waiting. You've got a plant full of asphalt waiting on you, and you've got 30 trucks sitting there getting paid hourly waiting on you. So every single minute that you're screwing around, every single minute that you're not focused on the job, you're spending thousands of dollars throughout the course of an hour that you're not being productive. And not to say that to be mean or rip his ass or anything like that, but it's just, you need to understand the consequences of what you're doing or the how the whole big picture works. And you've got to understand how we build this job, so that way you know what you need to do and what information you need to give us. You need to understand how we bid this job so you can hopefully make money on it and not, do it one way whenever we bid it another way. We all have to be on the same page, and it takes all of us. I mean, we obviously represent a lot of blue collar workers because that's the need, but it takes the whole team of people coming together and working as one unit, not working as the field side and the office side. And there's a split, and we don't like each other.
Well, because one can't survive without the other. I mean, that's the reality.
Yeah.
They need each other.
Yeah.
If you don't have the office, you have no one out there submitting bids, no one dealing with all the pre-construction stuff, no one dealing with all the insurance and all of the safety. You have no one dealing with that stuff that's needed in order to operate efficiently.
Yeah.
On the other side, if you don't have people out there building the stuff, you got nothing to sell.
Right.
Like, we need each other.
Yeah.
And we need to get rid of that bridge and that gap. And we need to say, hey, we're all in this together, whatever it takes. And the most successful clients that we work with, they do that. They start cross-functional training. They start letting people visit the field. They bring people into the office. They explain the why behind things. I think something really missing when it comes to company cultures is just, we don't explain the why. We just tell them, hey, there's another daily log you got to fill out. Here's another form you got to complete. Well, why? Well, because that's what we decided. No, that's not a why. Why'd you decide that? Like, let's start communicating those things to people. What you said about the impact on the budget, like, let's start being a little more transparent with our budget. We've had companies that have put together contests for improving the profitability, projects falling behind on its budget. And all of a sudden they're down 2 or 3 points. Well, they come out, they explain the why, they make fun of it, they make a contest out of it, they give them something to compete on. And all of a sudden, not do they just get the 2 or 3 points back, but they might add another 3 or 4 on the other end.
Yeah.
It's huge. But all we're doing is we're just communicating the why. We're explaining to people the importance of these things, not just because we say so, but because there's a real impact, a meaningful impact to the company.
Yeah. Well, and you're incentivizing better production too. And I think that that's an important thing to do to have a good, successful crew, is to incentivize your crew to do better. I mean, otherwise I'm getting paid the same either way.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
cool, man. Well, what else are you involved in? I mean, obviously, Core Matters is everything we've just talked about and more, I'm sure. But is there any other projects or missions that you're passionate about and involved in?
I really want to help the next generation of workers get into the field. I really want to make sure that we start talking more about what do we got to do to get women into the trades. Like those things are important because that's how we're going to solve this labor crisis that we're in. Let's stop ignoring 50% of the population. Let's figure out how to get them in. And then if we don't do something about bringing the next generation in, we're in a lot of trouble. So, my mission out here is just to make the trades cool again. And that happens through marketing, that happens through promotion, that happens with getting the right message in front of the right people. I look at people like Mike Rowe, who's been working on this for decades, and he's made a dent, but he's made a small dent. Like we all need to come alongside each other to do this. That's why I've got my podcast. That's why I love being on podcasts like Dirty and Driven, just to say, hey, how do we do this together? Because I'm not going to do it by myself. You guys aren't going to do it by yourselves. Like we got to do it together because we got to get that message in front of the right people.
Yeah.
I'm working with NCCR on some stuff. I've been involved with Build Your Future, if you're familiar with that organization. And just making sure, and NAWIC is one in construction, involved with those organizations just to say, hey, how do we come alongside each other, support each other, and do this stuff better? And I believe that one of the best ways to do it is for companies that want to make this shift, for companies that want to do something different, for companies that have said, hey, you know what? I have a moral obligation to the industry to do better, to be better. And that's why I wrote my book and the Corfit hiring system and the book, Hire Better People Faster. It's just when you take some of the things that we've spent the last 90 minutes talking about, and we take those principles and those ideas and those processes and we start implementing in our business, it raises not just our business, but it raises the whole industry. It sets an example for others to follow.
Yeah. Yeah. And you and I also are on the same kind of hot take, if you will, that there's not really a labor shortage. It's, as we've talked about the last 90 minutes, it's a marketing issue. And it's an issue of just changing that whole stigma of what the trades is and how companies in the trades are treating their people. There's people out there that do want to work. They just need to be motivated in a different way than what the construction industry is currently trying and has tried for years.
We push so many people away from the industry that said, hey, I want to give this a shot. They show up. We had a client a while back that they couldn't get people to get past day 3. Day 3 was a huge no-show day. And they couldn't figure out what it was. And they were taking kids, usually, late teens, early 20s, and they were doing foundation repair. And they would come in and they would put a shovel in their hands. And they'd say, start digging. Well, think about where these kids are coming from. They're playing video games. They're on their tablets. They're watching TV. They're hanging out with their friends. They're doing a lot of white collar stuff. And they show up on day 1. We put a shovel in their hands for 8 hours. And we send them home. And then in day 2, we do the same exact thing. Well, by day 3, it's not that they don't want to do this work. It's they can't get their ass out of bed. Like you destroyed them with 16 hours of hard labor. And instead of doing that, why don't we accommodate and say, okay, you're coming from this, from one way into another. Let's take our time. Yeah. Let's get them into it. But we don't do that. We just say we need the work right now. We're behind. We're desperate. Put a shovel in their hand. Let them dig for 8 hours, and we'll just deal with any of the fallout.
We need bodies. That's the one I hear a lot.
Yeah, but you know what?
We just need bodies out here, man. We just need bodies.
But you just told that kid that gave the industry a shot, you're not welcome here. Mm-hmm. You're not going to have it. So guess what? Now they left and they're going to go drive for Uber.
Yeah. And that's the bad part too. Whenever you run a kid off like that, like whenever you give them bad experiences, they don't leave your company and go work for another construction company. They leave your company and they go work for a totally different industry.
Exactly. So that's why I say we don't have a shortage. There are people that want these jobs. We just aren't giving them the shot.
Yeah.
We're not making it easy for them. And I'm not saying you got to be easy on them, but you got to make it easy for them to join the trades.
Yeah.
To learn a skill. You can't just run them off after a week and say, well, we give up on them. Invest in these guys a little bit more and these gals. I mean, if you're not willing to sit down and make a change and say, hey, we're going to put an effort into bringing more women into this industry, we need to change the way we behave around women and start having those conversations before you start bringing women onto your team.
Yeah.
And say, we're not going to do this. We're going to have respect. We're going to treat them with respect. Yeah. We're not going to be soft on them. We're going to treat them like they're one of us. Because every woman in the industry that I know is like that. Like, don't treat me different.
Yeah. No, I agree with that
that's
too.
what a
I've
cat
worked
call
with
is.
several. Yeah. Yeah, I've worked with
I
several.
don't see a lot of guys standing around catcalling each other.
Yeah.
You know?
At least not on any of the crews I've worked on.
but that's why we treat them different. They don't want to be treated different.
Right. Well, and they don't want a guy to take, oh, let me do that for you. You know, they're like, the women I know that have worked in it, they're like, fuck you, dude, I can do it.
Absolutely.
You know? Yeah.
So I think it's a combination of a lot of the stuff we've talked about. You know, a lot of the stuff that we do is really about systematizing this, because it's easy to talk about it on a podcast and for people to listen and go, oh, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. But if they don't know how to do it, if they don't know how to train it, if they don't know how to duplicate it, they're never going to do it. It's not going to happen.
Right.
So it's great to have the ideas. We bring things very much into the practical world and say, okay, this is how you do this. This is how you accomplish the things that we're talking about. This is how you find out what those values really look like, not the integrity and teamwork and honesty stuff that's probably already on the wall. Like, let's really talk about what your values are. You know, we at XYZ, we share the foxhole.
Yeah.
Like, that's a value for one of our clients, is to share the foxhole. Like, let's talk about what that means.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are real conversations. I mean, whenever you sit down with a company and you get them to really lay their values out on the table, man, that's a long, uncomfortable conversation, because you're really digging in and seeing who you are on the inside. And it's always so rewarding. I love doing it. Like, I've done it several times now, and it's just, I don't know. It's just real. It's raw, man. I mean, but at the end of the day, whenever you do that and then you actually enforce it in your company, it's a noticeable difference.
Oh, we have, it's crazy how many times we've just nailed it for a client and they latch on to one. We got a client, one of their values is to give a damn. And oh my gosh, everybody latched onto it. And the people that didn't give a damn, they're gone. And that's exactly what it should do. And they've said, we're not going to work with that contractor anymore because they don't give a damn.
Wow.
We're going to stop working with this supplier because they don't give a damn. So now every time they look at building a relationship with either an employee or a supplier or a contractor, it is, do they give a damn or not?
Yeah. That's awesome.
Because they don't, they're not going to work here.
That's awesome. Wow. That's just so cool to hear that you're doing that and helping these companies. I mean, like I said, we have a similar mission with Dirty and Driven. You know, our consulting side, our deal is gain, train, and retain. And we really like to focus on the train part as well, because I think it's so awesome that there's people going in and doing these core values and teaching them really how to give. I mean, really, when you boil it down, the biggest problem with our industry is people don't give a damn. And that's such a great, great point. I mean, you boil it down to the fact that employers don't give a damn about their employees, even though they say they do. I mean, they might give a damn as far as pay goes and benefits goes, but as far as on a personal, individual level, me and you, they don't give a damn. They might pass each other in the hallways and say hi, but they're not giving a good, insightful conversation or taking interest in their life. They're not going out in the field and looking at the jobs and seeing the jobs and feeling the jobs. And then the employee, in turn, he's not giving a damn about you. He's like, I'm a number here. I don't give a damn about this place. I'm a number. Yeah. I don't. So what? If I lose my job, I'll go apply to the next place. I mean, I'm just here for a paycheck, just long enough. So when it really boils down, you have to give a damn. And I think that that's how you retain people, is you give a damn. You gain them because you give a damn. People hear, oh yeah, this place cares for me. They care about me. They give a damn about me. I'll give a damn about them. I'll go work for a place like that. And I'll stick around because they give a damn about me. And then, somewhere in the middle of gaining and retaining, you've got to hopefully train these people up too, so they are competent, skilled workers to replace the guys that are eventually going to retire or leave for whatever other reason.
Absolutely. And, I've heard a lot of people say, I just wish my people would care about the business as much as I do.
Yeah.
Like so often I hear owners say, oh, nobody's going to care about the business as much as I do. And my response to that is, if you want people to care more about your business, you need to care more about them. Yeah. Because they're just sitting there going, I wish that my boss would care about me as much as he cares about this damn business. Mm-hmm. And if he'd care about me that much, I'd care more about the business for him.
Yeah.
Like it's this vicious cycle. And the reality is that as the employer, you need to go first. You need to take that initiative first. You need to let those people know, you know what? I care about you, not because I think I'm going to get something out of it. I truly do care. And most of them do. The reality is most of them really do care. They just don't know how to show it.
Yeah.
They don't know how to talk about it. They don't know how to market it and promote it. And that's what we help them do over at Core Matters.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Well, brother, I mean, what else? Talk a little looser here. I mean, we've been so formal and doing all this. Golly, dude, I'm like fired up though. I love these conversations.
It's a little intense.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully it makes some people uncomfortable. I mean, that's what I love about our podcast is I think every week we make people feel uncomfortable, whether it's a productive or unproductive conversation. But anyways, man, but outside of the Core Matters and work and all that, man, what gets you going? I mean, we like to, I mean, just speaking about people as individuals, I mean, what do you do in your personal life that's fun and engaging and different?
Well, I was born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. If you've ever been there, it's hot and it's dry and it's dead. And I have a lot of clients that have relocated their business. They live where they play. Mm-hmm. And I'm starting to meet more and more people who live where they play. And we would always go up to wherever the trees are, where there's water. And we would always leave Phoenix. My family would, if we wanted to do something fun. So last summer, we finally convinced my wife. She let me move across country. So we live in Tennessee now and love it up here. I mean, nice. I'm 5 minutes away from the river. I can go fishing anytime I want.
Hell yeah.
And that's a big thing for our family. Like we love going fishing. We love being outdoors. And Phoenix just wasn't conducive of that. It didn't really help us with that. We had to drive 4 hours to get to some place that was far enough out of town that we actually enjoyed. So now we live there. What kind
of fishing are you doing up there?
Well, I'm just getting into fly fishing.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'm just getting into that. We got to drive about an hour and a half for me to get to a good trout stream. Nice. But there's a lot of smallmouth and some other stuff around here. And so I'm just learning how to fly fish. But, the kids just they just love putting a lure on and just, casting as much as they can and catching some bluegill or some crappie or something like that. So they have fun with that. Do a lot of hiking out here. And nice. It's just great. Yeah, we live outside of town. So we don't have, we're not in farmland or anything, but we're far enough outside of town that it feels like we are.
Yeah. I like fly fishing, man. That's something that I don't really get the opportunity to do it much, but I've done it a few times, and that's a fun hobby, dude. If I lived somewhere where we could do it, sometimes I'll go out to the lake or something and just play around with the fly rod. I mean, just catching perch and bluegill and stuff. But yeah. I mean, if we want to go anywhere near here to catch trout, you got to go like 5 hours. But it's fun, man. I really enjoy it, and I've done it a few times.
We went out, me and my son, and we went out and we found a part of the river where, it was maybe 4 feet deep at most. And so he was just barely, he was just, neck deep in the water having a blast. And we hung out there for, 5-6 hours, and he was casting and I was casting everything else. And I was like, that was fun. And then the next day I was like, what the hell did I do to my shoulder? Like I'd forgotten or didn't associate that I just cast a fly rod for 5 hours. I was in so much pain for like 3 days. And everybody I tell that story to, like, that means you were doing it wrong. I'm like, yes, I know that means I was doing it wrong. But I'm just learning.
That's funny. My wife's a pretty good fly fisherman. We went to, there's a place called Broken Bow, Oklahoma, which is getting to be a pretty trendy. It's been trendy for a couple of years, but we went there a couple of years ago. And I told, like, we were going fly fishing. She's like, she'd never really been fishing before. And she's like, I don't know if I'm going to like this. And she's so detail oriented and loves something that she can just focus in on. And I said, you're going to love fly fishing. She goes, you think? And we went out there, dude, she was catching more than anybody else. She just, she loved it. Perfect. She had that perfect cast. It was like, I was tangling shit up left and right. And she just, she was in it. I love it. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Cracking that whip motion. That's how she was so good at it.
She's pretty good at that. Yeah. Whenever I'm out. Yeah. She's just aiming it at me. It's like,
Used to it. Yeah. No, my kids like it because there's no bait involved.
Yeah.
They don't have to get dirty. You know, I got a
Do you tie your
9-year-old
own
daughter.
flies?
No.
That's hard.
I
did
am.
that once.
That's not my style. Like, I like to be visionary, think big picture stuff, like to come up with new ideas and stuff. That level of detail, it just doesn't even sound fun to me.
Yeah.
There are people that are designed for that. I'm not one of them.
I did it one time whenever I was in the Boy Scouts, and it was fun to do one time, but yeah, it's like, cause they're so small and they're not that expensive. And so I did it, and like I was with my buddy, and he's like, dude, this is awesome. His flies looked awesome, just immaculate. Like they looked like they came out of a package made in a factory, and just perfect. And then mine are like all lumpy and weird looking, and like threads are hanging off and frayed up. I was like, I don't think this is for me.
It's like the guys that polish their own brass and I'm like, I had a buddy, I'm like, he's got this whole thing in his garage for just picking up old brass and reloading. And I'm just like, dude, I'm just going to go buy a new box off the shelf. Like, I don't need to do this. He's like, no, it's so peaceful. It's so relaxing. I'm like, yeah, no, I'd rather be out there shooting. I don't care to do this stuff. Yeah. So I stay away from that stuff. But like, I'm the kind of person that, there'll be people will be like, oh, there's a great fly fishing spot up here. You drive up and you just walk down a little bit. I'm the person that'll put the waders on and I'll walk 1.5 miles up the stream. My wife's like, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, we're going to find a new place. Like, to me, that's fun. I'd rather spend my time doing that, getting lost in the woods than getting lost in tying a fly. So
I think you and I are pretty similar in that aspect. I like that too.
Hey, Ryan, kudos to you for standing for 2 hours.
Yeah.
You've been standing the whole time, haven't you?
I have, yeah.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
Dang, I didn't know.
I was like, man,
this
this guy's a machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang, man.
Oh, I can't sit for too long, so I get too antsy.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
I've got
a standing desk.
I got my fidget toy here that I've been playing with the whole time too.
You're like, hurry up, James. Shut up, James. Yeah. Stop rambling, James. Stop rambling.
I think I broke like 5 pins doing the same thing this podcast. I fidget all the time, man.
I got this little fidget thing for my kids, and I was like, oh, I want one. So I just get from them, and so now I just play with this. It doesn't make noise, which is perfect, because the ones that make noise, you'll pick them up on the mic. So.
Oh yeah, I had that happen one time. Somebody was doing something, and I mean, you could hear it the whole show.
Yeah. I don't sit still very well. I don't
either.
So.
Especially, I'm drinking this coffee here, and I mean, this is that extra strong, and I'm just sitting here like ready to run through a wall or something.
Yeah. No, I got the stand desk a couple years ago, so I didn't have to just sit still for the whole time. So
yeah, those are a game changer.
Yeah. So. I'm on it all day. I mean, there are days where I'll start Zoom at 7 a.m. and I won't get off Zoom till 5 p.m.
Yeah. Well, something we always have to ask our guests too is, what is the dirtiest job you've ever had to do?
It's a good question. I mean, I do a lot of stuff around the house, but I think so we bought a house with a crawl space. I never had a house with a crawl space before. Do you know what things live under a crawl space?
Casey knows what lives and what's died under a crawl space.
Oh yeah, there was dead stuff down there, and our crawl space before we got the house, the crawl space would fill with water, so there was all sorts of stuff down there. It was pretty nasty, but there's enough work that had to be done down there. I just went down and I cleaned the whole thing out for a couple days. My wife was like, "You're nuts. It was a pretty dirty job." But I mean, I got nothing on like the stuff that Mike Rowe does on dirty jobs. Like that's some dirty stuff. Did you put tarps down or anything in that crawl space, or were you just down there just getting it done? Just getting it done. Yeah. I mean, I'm not the young spring chicken I used to be, so getting down into a crawl space, like I hurt. So that didn't help, but no, just get it done. Spiders everywhere, webs everywhere, stuff growing in corners everywhere. It's gross. Yeah. Yeah. Casey one time found a dead raccoon under a crawl space, because Casey, he does maintenance at mine and my wife's rentals, and then he also does them for my parents and stuff. And there was one time that there was an issue at one of my mom's rentals, and
Casey went in there. I'm just gonna let you tell that story, Casey, because it's your story, man.
Now, there was complaint of a sewer gas smell or something coming from a bathroom, and checked and made sure all the vents, everything was good. Everything was draining properly, snaked everything. It's like, well, maybe we need to crawl underneath. So once I, once I pulled out the cover to go underneath the house, just so happened where the smell was coming from, before I even crawled under, the vents on the side of the house, on the stem wall, you could see a ton of flies and bugs crawling up from the side from where the smell was. I was like, oh boy. And sure enough, I crawled under and kind of stuck my head through and shined a light, and ended up being a raccoon that had been trapped in this crawl space for, I don't know, at least 6 months or 8 months. And just, it was right by the drain pipe in that bathroom, and it had just decayed, and the maggots going out of its eyes and just the whole 9 yards. It was, but anyway, in order to get rid of the smell, you had to get that the raccoon out. And
Yeah.
I didn't have the right respirator stuff, but I had I did have on a chintzy ass mask and gloves and the old hold the breath and go and spray. Hurry up, put it in the trash bag. Hurry up. Then breathe away from it for a little bit, then get your breath again and come back in and end up.
That reminds me when I was in high school, my parents had moved us out of town, and they got a mobile home, brand new mobile home. And I forget how we did it, but we adopted a cat. Like, there was a cat that followed us home one day. Well, this cat stayed outside all the time, and for like months it would come, it would eat and everything else. One day the cat disappeared. We're like, okay, coyotes got it. No big deal. And then the next summer we started getting this really horrible smell under the living room. I was like, what the heck is going on? Flies everywhere. And so, we pull off the skirting under the mobile home, and you could see the vapor barrier had drooped in this one area. You're like, what the heck's going on? And I went and I was pushing around, and you could feel something heavy in there. And I'm guessing the cat just crawled up on one of the vents, one of the holes in the vapor barrier, got stuck up there and just died. And I'm under there with the razor knife cutting the vapor barrier, and all of a sudden just this half decayed thing, maggot infested cat dropped out. And I'm in high school. I know nothing about PPE or masks or what's bad for me and what's good for me. Got a shovel, threw it in a trash bag, and went and buried the trash bag in a shallow grave in the backyard, because I was like, I'm not throwing this in the trash. A couple of days later, the grave was dug up, trash bag was everywhere, cat was gone. It was awful. It was disgusting. So.
What sucks about them crawl spaces too is a lot of them you're literally crawling underneath, and then it's a confined space, so there's really only one or two ways in and one or two ways out, and it's not like you can like hurry up and run and get the hell out of there. You'll be hitting your head on floor joists and dirt and muck and.
Yep. Yeah, but yeah, that was pretty nasty. You reminded me of that, and I forgot about that. I let that bad memory go away, but we didn't miss the cat. We just had to deal with the mess.
Oh, that's horrible. Coyotes like the cat, it sounds like.
They did. I'm not a cat guy. Maybe that's why.
Oh, that's tough, man. That's tough stuff. I haven't had to pull a dead animal out of a deal like that. We've had plenty of dead deer on road jobs though, and those get pretty stinky. You let them sit even over the weekend. You come back out, somebody hits it over the weekend, and you come back. Whew, that's a tough smell, man.
Dude, there's a ton of skunks out right now that are getting annihilated on the roads.
There's a guy that I used to know that had a song that he'd always sing. He went to my church. Anytime we went on a church road trip, he would always sing a song called Dead Skunk in the Middle of the Road. So, well, Ryan, man, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, brother. We'll definitely have to stay in touch. I like what you're doing. I really love your mission, and I love what you're doing for the industry and how you're helping these companies. And I mean, like I said, we all got to work together on this stuff, and we've all got to figure it out, whether you are a contractor and you've got a business and you want to figure out how to make a better culture, just your little 5-10 man crew, or if you've got hundreds of people, that makes a big dent, just a little bit at a time, creating better people in this world. And it not only helps your company, it helps the whole industry. And then in turn, if you help a whole industry, you're helping a large portion of our society. So if you complain about how bad society is nowadays, it's really your duty and obligation to take into account how you can change it in your circle, whether that circle be your family or whether that circle be your company. You can make a difference on individual lives of people. And the more individual lives are affected, the better our whole industry and society gets. So, reach out to Ryan, reach out to us. Reach out to anybody else you may know that can help you through this stuff. Don't just think you're going to do it on your own, because I think a lot of contractors say, well, I can do this on my own. And you might be able to, but whenever you reach out to somebody outside, they're going to maybe tell you some things you don't want to hear. And, also they can help speed the process along of making some change. So don't be
I think
afraid
it's
to
really
do
a
that.
challenge for a lot of people. If they're too close to it, it's really a challenge for them to be able to solve it. Like, you guys are good at building stuff, like go build stuff, go construct things. Like, that's what your expertise is. Let a coach or a guide come in, like myself or my team at Core Matters, and really coach you and guide you through this process, because this is what we're exceptionally good at. Like, I'm never going to pretend that we could go out and do the stuff that most of these companies do. We don't do that. But our expertise lies in something else. And hey, I got a gift for the listeners if you'll let me share that.
Yeah. Let's hear it, man.
I'd mentioned that I got a book out, Hire Better People Faster, where we break down our entire process. All 7 components of the CoreFit hiring system. We dive deep into all of them. It's really built like a how-to book. If someone wants to get a free copy of that, they can go to corematters.com/free book. And we charge a little sharp shipping and handling fee just to offset our costs there. But other than that, you can get a free copy of the book. And audiobooks available as well if you'd rather listen to it. I don't have a way to give you that, but you can go pick that up at any of the audiobook places. It's been really powerful for a lot of people that have read it. And I wrote it in such a way that you could implement our process without having to engage with us, because I can't expect everybody out there that wants to do this to come and work with us. So I got to put this information in the hands of as many people as I can, so we can really transform the industry.
Yeah, dude. And I'm actually glad you said that, because your book is, I wanted to read it before, but I'm in the middle of another awesome book right now, but that's actually on my list to read next. So I'm going to be starting it probably in the next week or two. So once I finish this other one, and I'm excited to read it, and I'm excited to learn. I love reading books like that from people that are involved in the industry and truly how we can make the industry better. So I'm excited to read it, especially after talking with you. I think it's really going to just open my eyes to some things and help us with what we do. So yeah, man, that's cool. And guys, if you feel that need, check that out. It's a free book, and you can read it, and hopefully it'll help you guys too and help the industry. So,
Absolutely.
Well, cool. Well, you got any final thoughts, Ryan?
I will say that this is something that you can do. Like, I'm sure there's been people listening to this going, whatever. There's no way that's going to work with my team. It works. It may not be as easy as we make it sound sometimes, but this is something you can do. And so if you are just tired of the turnover, tired of the lack of performance, tired of the safety issues, tired of having to turn away jobs because you can't man them, if these things are keeping you up at night, you owe it to yourself to at least check out the book. If not, reach out to me and my team on how we can support you and help you with this. I do a lot of podcasting. In fact, I have my own podcast where we talk a lot about different things to support the industry, but really sharing stories of what's been working and what's not. So there are tons of resources out there. So I would say start consuming that information, start educating yourself on some of the changes that we need to make in this industry to really accomplish the things we've talked about.
Yeah. Now, be sure to plug where people can follow you, where to find your podcast, what the name of it is, and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So easiest place to find me is at corematters.com. Again, that's where that free book offer is. You go to corematters.com/free book. The book's also available on Amazon and anywhere else you can get books, as well as the audiobook. I'm really active on LinkedIn. So if you're active on LinkedIn, check me out there, Ryan Englin. And the name of the podcast is Titans of the Trades, Stories and Strategies from Blue Collar Powerhouses. So these are people that are making it happen. These are people that are solving the problem in different ways. Just had a guest earlier this week, runs a plumbing company. He's built an apprenticeship program, takes 18 months. He's never going to struggle with hiring qualified technicians again, because 5 years ago, he started growing them. Every year, he turns out 3 or 4 new technicians. He's like, I solved that problem. He goes, I got other problems now, but that problem I solved. And so that's why I had him on the show, was to really just talk about what it is that he accomplished, how he did it, his approach to solving that problem. And even if you're not in plumbing, even if you do asphalt, you can do the same types of things he did and start growing better craft workers and better crews, because they just want to be trained. And if you can just take advantage of that and put something structured together, you make it happen.
That's badass. That's badass. Cool, man. Well, guys, be sure to check him out and follow him if you're on LinkedIn, and check out his website and podcast and everything. Casey, you got anything?
No, appreciate the time, man.
Yeah.
Been a good conversation.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, it's been fun, guys. We'll let you get back to your Saturday instead of bending your ear all day long, because we can and we will.
Well, I could talk about this stuff all day. I could.
Awesome. Well, guys, I hope you take some of this into account, and I hope that you really, again, just make an individual difference to the people around you, and in turn, it will build, and those people will make differences in their lives, to the people around them, and it will have a chain reaction. And it is your duty and obligation as anybody in this industry, I think, to pursue that. So I'm going to end on that. I'm going to say, get uncomfortable and do something hard like that.
Bye, guys.